We're joined now by HuskerOnline Sean Callahan. Sean, good morning. Nebraska 5-1, one win away from a bowl game with 6 games to go. Do they look about what you thought they looked like before the season, or how do you assess them through 6 games compared to what you thought they looked like, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say if they look exactly like I thought they looked. Because I don't know if any fan base can say that about their team in college football. But there's been good things we've seen on offense with Raiola. I think the offensive line has overcome injury adversity at times. There's questions still with the running game and how that works. Defensively, though, I think you can argue this group is as good, if not playing better right now than we thought they could play. I mean, the way they played in that goal line stand last week, and the way they're playing up front, the way Sierra Wright stepped in for Tommy Hill, John Bullock. There's been a lot of positives on this defense. Now, special teams, as we know, is a huge thing still, particularly just some of the operational kicking issues and the punting issues that we saw in terms of the protection on the punts. But yeah, 5-1, you take 5-1, especially with where Nebraska's been since 2016.
Sean, and I don't expect you to do a full-on analysis, but we haven't talked a lot about the offensive line. It doesn't feel like. How would you assess their play in a paragraph?
I think they've been okay. We had Jeremiah Searles last night on
Big
Red
Rapid.
He's pleasantly surprised with Gunnar Gatula and how he's stepped in and what they've done. Obviously, he said he's not a great run blocker yet in terms of getting that push because he's a younger player. But as he goes, it's usually just one thing on all the plays. He goes, there might just be one guy that might be off on what they're supposed to do, and it's not always the same person. So he feels like they're really close. It just hasn't been able to click for them as a unit, especially in the run game. But there are flashes of what they can be. Also, the backs probably need to do a better job at times of just hitting the hole. I mean, Emmett Johnson, we've seen a couple times, or guys have opportunities and they might just miss the hole or miss the read. So there's a lot of things that have, probably played a factor with the running game, but they need to run it better. I think if they're going to win in these final 6 games, they need that running game to produce much more than we've seen.
Joined by Sean Callahan. Sean, we saw Sierra Wright per PFF, Pro Football Focus, was the highest ranked cornerback in the country in Week 6. I'm curious, how surprised are you by his performance so far in filling for Tommy Hill?
Well, as far as the recruit goes, he's higher ranked than anybody they have, really on the entire defense. I mean, he's a bona fide top 100 player coming out of high school, started at USC. But the way he left USC made you question, what was the situation there. Clearly a change of scenery has been good for him getting to Nebraska. And so the talent's always been there. You just didn't know what was the issue at USC and why it didn't work there for him. But yeah, he's been, I expect him to play, to be ranked overall in the Big Ten right now. He's ranked number 3 in terms of corners in the conference. I think that the question now is how do they manage this with Tommy Hill? Because there's no doubt he's going to be on the field. It'd be just foolish to not be playing him from here on out. And Tommy Hill is the highest draft prospect still arguably on this roster. So how do you manage that moving forward with Marquise Buford also playing corner, Hartstug at a safety like corner type role? I mean, there's a lot of moving around that's probably going to have to happen because you can't take Sierra Wright off the field right now.
Interesting, Sean. John, I'd say we've kind of covered this, but Bullock, did you envision this rise of Bullock? Is he playing? I'll phrase it this way: is he playing at an All Big Ten level right now? I mean, a first team All Big Ten level.
It's numbers wise, yes, but I always hesitate to ever say right now anyone's All Big Ten because there's 18 teams in this conference.
18.
And, to get all Big Ten, you're pretty much an All-American at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think about I voted on it last year at 14, and it's really, really hard to say you're all Big Ten because usually what happens is the best teams in the league, the votes go towards those players. So Nebraska's got to stay up there for guys to get all Big Ten. Do I think he's going to make a team, whether it's first, second, third? Yes. I think he's put himself in that position, which is kind of where you have to talk. Because, I mean, Nick Scourton, in my opinion, was one of the best players in the Big Ten last year. He didn't make all Big Ten last year because he was on Purdue.
Right.
So some of it still has to do with the team you play for and where you finish. So Nebraska needs to finish strong for some of these players to get some of those recognitions.
Sean, I saw On3 had Dylan Raiola and Ja'Cory Barney and their freshman All-American team mid-season. Do you worry about a freshman wall for either of those two players?
No, not with Dylan. I mean, Dylan's not a typical freshman. I think for Barney, it's just the physicality and the scouting. You already saw Rutgers really had that scouted out well, but give Satterfield credit. They kind of used him as a decoy, and that freed up the Janiron Bonner touchdown run. And in fact, Ja'Cory Barney laid the key block on the edge to allow that to play. So I think for Nebraska now, can they use some of the things with Barney as wrinkles to open up some other things? Because obviously when he is on the field, they are going to key on him, especially when those motions come into play. Everybody's eyes are on those motions. So can that motion then allow other things? And we saw a couple runs pop early in the game up the middle because the eyes all move towards him when he's coming around the corner to Raiola. But they've been outstanding, as true freshmen, what they've done. I'd like to see a kick return opportunity for Barney. The kick returns are just hard to come by. You just don't see a lot of them anymore in college football.
Hey, Sean, it's obviously a bye week. Now, you're at first blush, you might think, the coaches will head out and recruit. But that's not necessarily the case. I've heard you say, why is that?
Well, they only get 33 days total. So every coach out counts as a day. So if you put 10 coaches out today, that'd be 10 of your 33 days.
Okay.
So they're really careful. They've used probably 6, 7, 8 days already, and they're going to save them for the November bye week. And that rule will go out a lot during that week. You might see a coach out Friday this week, maybe one guy out here or there. But it's complicated because from September 1 to December 1, you only get 33 total days to use, and then there's no days anymore in December to go out in the living room before the early signing day in December. So this is it. Those 33 days are really important.
Is the idea that you go out on the second bye week because it's closer to that December signing day?
Yeah, it's closer to signing day.
Yeah, so that's why you head out.
Yep. Sean, always good stuff. Thanks for the time. We'll chat with you again next week.
Hey, thanks, guys.